All right, everybody, what's going on? This is James Vang, and I have my guest here. Go ahead and introduce
Johnny
yourself.
Xiong.
That's right. So Johnny Xiong. I met Johnny Xiong at the Hmong Fitness and Motivation get together in 22, which is just what, like 3 or 4 months ago. And yeah, we had a good time. First time meeting him, just kind of chit chatting a little bit with him throughout like his warm ups and just kind of picking his brain a little bit about what he's thinking about in terms of his numbers to not like self short himself. But overall, I think I had a good time meeting him. He even stayed and helped us clean up a little bit, which I don't think anybody else kind of did. So I really appreciate that. And I noticed that you had like a fitness niche. So I really wanted to get to know you a little bit more on that end and just kind of share to our audience a little bit about what you do and kind of where you're at. And if people want to meet with you and train with you and learn from you, where they can come. Okay.
Okay.
But generally, talk a little bit about yourself. Like how did you get started in fitness to this point?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for having me here, by the way, James. Really
Yep.
appreciate that. Um, so my name is Johnny Xiong. I am 22 years old. I was born in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. Basically, now I'm an online fitness coach. As some of you guys might know, I post a lot in the Hmong Fitness group. But kind of just a little background story of me growing up and why I decided to want to do this is ever since I was a little kid, I've always been super athletic. Like I love sports, but I was always really scrawny, really, really scrawny. I think it's like the ectomorph, or it's more the scrawny type of genetics
Mhm.
type of guy. My cardio was super good, super good cardio. So growing up, it wasn't until freshman year of high school where I started lifting weights. And that's basically where I loved lifting weights. I was never really consistent until honestly, I would say about 2 years ago. So around 20 years old was where I started to really take on lifting weights really seriously to really pack on the muscle. Um, and during the time I was in college, I actually dropped out of college. I was actually studying for exercise science. I don't think a lot of people know this. They just assume that I graduated from college. Um, but yeah, I dropped out of my senior year just
For
to,
exercise science, right? So you were going for exercise science during your senior year, you dropped out.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I know when you say it like that, and when I say it too, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I really did that. But during the time, I was in a lot of stress. First of all, I
Mhm.
never really liked college, right? I actually started two businesses during my freshman year of college, and they both
Wow.
failed. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I guess I kind of just always had that entrepreneurial type of mindset in the back of my head, and then I didn't really take full force on it, which was actually starting my own online fitness business until
Uh-huh.
I saw one of my mentors. His name is Brandon Carter. Um, he had an ad on Facebook. He was like, "Hey, did you want to start your own online fitness business?" I'm like, I was super dedicated to fitness. I still am. I love fitness, everything
Yep.
about it. And then honestly, just after college, I didn't really see myself having like a regular job. Nothing against regular jobs, but I've had regular jobs before, and I just felt like it was not as fulfilling as what I'm doing right now. So, long story short, I'm an online fitness coach, um, helping a lot of Hmong people with weight loss and muscle building.
Um, I want to dig in a little bit into like your philosophy because you were saying that you were an ectomorph, right?
Yeah,
So do you find it challenging to do the opposite for other people? So like imagine most of your clients are trying to lose weight, right? But you never really had that problem to begin with.
right.
How do you approach that idea from a personal perspective?
Yeah, really good question. So, um, growing up, I always knew I was really skinny. So, kind of just knowing how thin my wrists are, my neck, my ankles. I have really small feet too, even though I'm 5'11". Um,
Yeah.
but then actually, I think even I believe we're not just an ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. I
Mhm.
think there's like a range. It's like a spectrum. So honestly, I feel like I wasn't like a pure ectomorph. I feel like maybe I was more in the middle between ectomorph and then the middle one. I forgot. Is it endomorph?
Mesomorph.
Mesomorph?
Yep,
Yeah.
mesomorph.
Because during my freshman year of college, I don't know if you've heard of freshman 15, but holy crap, I gained a lot of weight during college. And I was
Okay.
actually probably like over 20% body fat. So going back to your question, I had to learn how to diet down and to actually be disciplined with my diet instead of just eating whatever.
Yep.
Because yeah, it was disgusting. I was eating triple cheeseburgers every night for my meal, and I gained so much weight. But then to me, I was rationalizing to myself. I was like, oh, I'm just lifting weights, like I'm bulking, like I'm gonna build so much muscle. And then
Mhm.
before you know it, like I was really, really chubby. I didn't really like that. And I also knew it wasn't healthy too. You can't just eat whatever you want. You actually have to be disciplined. So
Yep.
how I help that with my clients right now, just long story short, is teaching them how to be disciplined, teaching them what kind of foods are going to be good for
Nice.
them, some nutrition tips, maybe some intermittent fasting. Some of my clients don't like intermittent fasting, which is fine. And then just catering towards how many meals they can realistically eat per day, and then me calculating how many calories they're gonna need to be shooting for every single day, and then just me being there as a coach to try to keep them accountable as much as they can to actually hit their calories as best as they can.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, really good. Now the reason why I ask you that is because I is when I first started, I'm also like an ectomorph. I was like really, really small and really, really
Mhm.
skinny. So
Okay.
a lot of the times when people come to me, like if they're like in need of like a lot of fat loss and things like that,
Yeah.
I don't want to pretend like that's what I want to do, like to help you lose weight. Generally, I just love to teach people how to lift weights, how
Okay.
to make them feel better about themselves, but
Mm.
that's my niche. But for you, you were saying that you help people lose weight, but then you start off kind of skinny. I just found that really interesting as a trainer that you would have
Mm.
to experiment a little bit on yourself, or maybe even be in that ecto into endomorph kind of a situation and kind of like work yourself back down
Mm.
um, to kind of help you with your clients. And I think that's really cool because I think self experience is better than education for the most part. I think going to school, kind of like what you're saying earlier, back at,
Mm.
like you're at your senior year going for exercise science,
Mm.
I can almost guarantee you that just about everybody I know who went to college for exercise science all kind of regret it. Because what are they really doing with the exercise science degree when they
Exactly.
themselves love fitness so much that they can pretty much do what you're doing right now already, right?
Mhm.
Because I think a lot of that is your self-interest. You don't need like a degree to be good at helping people lose weight, exercise, and diet, as long as you yourself just kind of know the basics. Generally, people are just too lazy to do it, or maybe
Yeah.
this isn't their niche. So I always found that part for me, like when people ask me from a big guy to lose weight, that for me
Mm.
is challenging for me because I would just tell them diet or exercise a little bit more, but I can never
Right.
understand it from their perspective because I was never a big guy to begin with. So like
Yeah.
I found that really interesting that you actually you kind of yo-yoed yourself, right? Skinny
Yeah.
to perfect to big, back down, and then now you're like, all right, this is this is me. This is how I feel the most comfortable in my own skin, right?
Yeah.
So this
Exactly.
is this is good for other people too, because I know a lot of people, they're very much like you, where maybe at the beginning of their journey they feel like their frame or their body type is a certain way, and then as
Mm.
they grow, their hormones change, their lifestyle kind of changes. You kind of go from like ecto to endo to meso to everywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And regardless of where you're at, I think it's just important to be open-minded like you and eat a little bit more, train a little bit more if you want to get bigger, or if you're a little bit bigger, kind of do the opposite. Focus more on your diet, do a little bit more cardio, and things like that.
Right. Exactly. And honestly, like with what you said, there's like three things I kind of want to touch upon.
Yeah,
Number
yeah, go
one,
for it, man. Go for it.
yeah, like I know I have a lot of skinny friends back in high
Mhm.
school, like really scrawny, no muscle. you would think that they would always be skinny for a long time. But as people get older, and usually when people get older, if they just keep having the same habits back in high school where they kind of just eat whatever they want. Like I have a lot of friends, like they're a lot bigger now. And it's like, well, man, like, like not to
Life
judge, but
hits.
in
No,
terms of
yeah.
like health,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like, it's crazy. It's body can, you can like people can gain a lot more fat than what they think.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what happened to me during my freshman year. And honestly, just recently, a couple months ago, I was pretty lean. I was like, man, I want to get on a little bulk, right? I was like, I want to pack on some muscle. Let me try to do this the right way. Long story short, I messed up. I was kind of going out a lot, eating a lot out, drinking a lot, gaining a
Uh-huh.
lot of weight, and I'm in a stage to where I actually want to just be disciplined more. So,
Hmm.
which brings me another good point too, where it's like, wow, everything that I'm telling my clients, like I'm actually doing right now, and it's a lot of a mental challenge because you can tell people what to do. I mean, the internet, you know people know what to do, but you just have to kind of have some accountability, some guidance and discipline to actually stick through it every single day on a day-to-day basis, which can be pretty uncomfortable because there's a lot of distractions. There's friends wanting you to go out every weekend, which it really messes up your momentum, in my opinion. And that momentum, whenever I think about all the times where I've gotten the best shape of my life, I rarely let distractions in my way. And that's hard for me to communicate to my clients who are usually older. They're between like 30 40 years old, where they have kids, they have a
Mhm.
lot of family events that they feel like they need to go to. I tell them straight up, like the first few months, like try not to go out as much. It's gonna be
Mhm.
pretty boring. Try to live a pretty boring lifestyle if you're really serious about building this good momentum. So yeah, things like that.
Yeah. So even to that note, because even for me, like I think I part of the reason why I like powerlifting is
Mm,
because I don't have to be that strict on myself. So like as a person, I'm very much like the people that you train as well.
mhm,
I like to go out and hang out with family. I do find myself drinking here and there, and I do like the aspect of the community where you're just kind of just being there to enjoy the time with people versus like, you know, what is it, doing what crazy things, right?
mhm, mhm,
But I think for me, that's what makes me happy. And I think,
mhm,
understanding where other people come from as well on how to get them there, I think is also very crucial. So even just letting yourself go and kind of failing at like how to stay disciplined, how to keep your body in line with the best shape ever.
mhm.
Sometimes falling off of that kind of teaches you like a really good lesson. It
I
makes you
agree.
feel a certain way about yourself, your body feels a certain way. Cause I know like if you're
Mhm,
drinking a lot and you're kind of just not eating as much healthy foods, you tend to be more bloated and more lazy, right?
mhm.
But
Yep, for sure.
you are the type of person that wants to be in good shape. And I think that when you kind of relate yourself to like the regular population, that's where you kind of find that little disconnect. Because you would say like, yeah, health and fitness, you could just find it anywhere, but only you and me think like that. Only you and me and other fitness people, fitness like-minded people can be like, all right, you have YouTube videos and Instagram, anybody can learn from that. But a regular person who don't really want to exercise, who want to enjoy that time with their family, who want to drink and do all these things, but they also know that exercise is good for them. You have to like bridge that gap. And I think
Yeah,
sometimes falling off of your discipline helps you understand that perspective a little bit more, and you can kind of like mentally reach these clients on a deeper level and be like, yeah, go ahead and drink your heart out this weekend. Just go ahead and let it all out and do what it is that you're doing. But just understand that with every decision that you do, these are the consequences. And if your health is important to you, then I would also say like just learn how to take a step back. If that's really what they want to do. But that part is also the interesting part. I don't really like training Hmong clients
Mm,
generally because of that reason, because it's really difficult. I find it that if I get people who are dedicated already, then it's an easier job for me. And I noticed that
right.
that's a niche of yours, something that you say that I think is really cool. I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but I get it. You say things like, I help Hmong women lose 10 pounds without eating rice. Or like you would tell, like, I would help OGs lose 10 pounds without, um, having to lose rice. And
Right.
it's funny because it's really easy for me and you to do things like that.
Mm,
But OGs and other people, that is like the lifeline, right? There was a
yeah.
post where a guy was talking about his father-in-law was a diabetic and he had to stop eating rice. But he
Mm,
said that his father-in-law was happier eating rice, knowing that the rice is causing him to like kill himself in a sense.
jeez. Yeah.
So, and he felt like that was the limit to what he can do. And this conversation is important because what if you were there? You would have been the
Right.
perfect person to be able to explain to this person, like, hey, you don't have to cut the rice. We can get you where you need to be, still eat a little bit of rice and maintain your body. But the problem is because you were so unhealthy to begin with, now the rice is killing you.
Mm,
Once you get back to being healthy, boom, we can add the rice back in. But until we get there, right? I find it that a lot of people just don't have that knowledge base. So I guess a good question that I want to ask you is like, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the people that the target audience that you're trying to get
mm.
and their excuses? And how do you handle that?
Yeah, it's tough. So it's really tough. So I'm assuming like people that are not my current clients at the moment, right? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
when I'm just talking to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough because I I think I like to think in a lot of black and white. So it's like when I talk to them, I'm like, hey, what are your goals, right? And they're like, oh, I want to lose 20 plus pounds. I'm like, okay, all right, that's amazing. What's stopping you? And they tell me straight up, oh, it's my nutrition. I'm like, okay. So kind of with that, it's it's tough because at the end of the day, I think it comes down to two things. Number one, it's like
Mm.
how bad do they actually want it? Like, do they just kind of want it? And this is kind of turning into like a motivational thing, which I don't want it to be.
I
But
mean, no,
it's
no, go for it. I mean, because I mean, part of the conversation is to get your point across, and sometimes like being motivational is it, and sometimes saying the ugly truth is not. I mean, nobody wants to hear that. But at the end of the day, everybody thinks it's like an easy thing. So like part of why I'm asking you these questions is because you deal with a lot of people with these kind of thoughts. And imagine if there was 10 people who was in that current situation who you're not training, asking these same questions, and they need to hear it from your mouth, a guy that's directly targeting them as people who need help, right? What would you tell them to get them to commit?
yeah, so it's really good. So number one, I just if we're kind of going back and forth, sometimes I kind of just get tired when I'm outreaching
Uh-huh.
to people and I just say, okay, well, how important is this goal to you?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I can kind of see behind the texts, like they just kind of want it. It would be nice for them to lose weight, to look better, to have
Yep.
a six pack, or to be toned. And depending on what they say, um, if it's not that serious, then I kind of just continue on with the conversation. But if they're serious, then we get on a quick call. But then there's a lot of misinformation. So I would
Yeah,
tell them, okay,
right. Dude.
like number one, it's like I actually like recently people tell me like, oh, I want to lose weight, but it's so hard for me to give up carbs. Like I don't want to completely give up rice. I'm like you don't have to. You don't have to if you just understand calories in, calories out, your body type, how many calories you burn per day.
Yep.
And then fitting the carbs around that because carbs are not bad. And this honestly, James, this is kind of where it gets like a little difficult too, because
Oh,
It's the
I
top of
know.
the
Trust
list.
me. That's why I'm asking you the question, you know?
Yeah, because in my mind, I'm like, should I really give like a whole entire lecture to this person? And would they actually, are they actually interested in hearing what I have to say? Or are they just gonna kind of brush it off? Because I can give like millions of advice and tips to people who actually need the help, but also with experience, a lot of them just don't really take it. They're just, I don't know if their attention span is short or they're not that serious, but it's really tough. And for me to get my point across. So, and what I realized is the people who are really serious, they'll reach out to me, or it's really easy to kind of see their tone through the text, like, hey, I need your help. And I'm like, okay, let's get in a call. If we get in a call, then most likely, obviously, they're really serious to talk to a stranger online, right?
Yep. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, but long story short, even I'm still trying to figure out like what's going to be
Yep.
the
Okay.
best way for me to tell them what they need to hear, because the truth is like I eat rice every day, but it's just if you can just portion it out and actually kind of at least track your calories for the first couple of weeks so you know how many calories you're eating per day, and then just kind of being consistent with that, that's really it. It's really simple. Like losing weight is really simple. I just think there's a lot of distractions that people let into their lives that really mess them up. And I think they think in a lot of black and white. If they mess up on their diet, they've been perfect for 2 days. And this used to be me too. They're perfect on their diet for like days. And then they have this craving because they've been restricting themselves for so long. They just full on binge eat and they
Yep.
completely just forget about their diet. They're like, oh, what's the point? I messed up already. Let me just binge eat for the rest of the day, start tomorrow. And that's
Yeah.
terrible. So a lot of it is a little bit of balance, because in the long run, what I tell my clients is when because they're usually older and they go out like once a week, right? So I
Mhm.
tell them, okay, try your best to eat healthier foods when you're out here. Try not to drink too much. But then I tell them, if you think about it, 6 out of 7 days of the week, you're eating and being the best, as healthy as you can be. You're being consistent with the workouts that I'm giving you. You're tracking your calories. The one day, if you're eating within a moderate amount, it's not going to hurt you, because 6 out of the 7 days, you're going in an
Yep.
upward projection.
Exactly.
And that one day, it's like it's not going to hurt you in the long run, just as long as you can keep being as consistent as you can on a daily basis. So, which is kind of going towards that lifestyle approach, because like everyone's human, everyone's going to mess up on their diet, but it's not about messing up. It's about how consistent you can be with actively choosing healthier habits. And that's really the key there for long-term progress.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, all you're really asking them to do is to love themselves. Like, how do you
Right.
not see? For me, that's always been the hardest part, and which is why, like, I'm curious about your journey too, because again, you went from being an exercise science person into trying to become a a trainer and didn't finish school, and now you're just going full blown with the fitness industry. And then your target audience is one of the toughest audiences to get. And I just find that not only is that challenging as a person, because I know when I first got started into the fitness industry, that was the same mindset that I had, because that a lot of these individuals need help. But then again, how do you get them to commit? And it always break my heart so much that I can't get
Yeah.
these people to love themselves enough to care about themselves. I mean, how hard is that, right?
Mhm.
So that became kind of like a lost cause for me. And I just find like your energy in the way that you try to push it upon, like, your target audience to be kind of, I guess, motivating, but also scary. And I want to know like how your mindset is working through that. Because even for right now, like, how are you, I guess, financially healthy? And how does that thought of thinking about this is the direction that I want my life to be in, and is that scary to you? Like, how does that affect your life, mentally and personally, digging into this kind of work, with the situation that you had previously? Mentally, how has that affected you just as a person?
Oh, man, great question. Great question. Yeah, and the thing is, I just started my online fitness business about basically February 1st. So it's been about 9 months ago,
Mhm.
to where I was still in college. So it was really scary because as a Hmong person and with Hmong parents, so if my mom and my dad they see this video after, but
You're
um,
good, man. You're good.
when I told them like I want to drop out, oh man, it was pretty traumatic, right?
Mhm.
But then
Yep.
I expected that. I expected that, and I was like, it's my decision. It was gonna be a hard decision. Like there's two paths for me. One, I kind of just grind it out, finish school, be like this, get a regular job, right? Or number two, I can actually pursue something that really excites me and something that I really want to work hard towards. Because I've always wanted to start a business, and I was
Yep.
extremely dedicated in fitness. So I'm like doing these two at once is like, okay, I need to go towards this direction. And the funny thing is, I was actually still like in class, but then I was working on my business 24/7. And this happened for about a good 2 months where I was just kind of like half-assing my class. Like it was so bad to the point where I was like, I'm only in my head, I was like, I'm only going to class so I can get attendance points. When I'm not even paying attention to the lectures, I'm just working on my business on my laptop the whole time. To the point where I was like, let me just skip. Let me just stop going to class. So I stopped going to class. It felt weird, right? But then at the same time, I knew my purpose, and I was already
Yep.
kind of doing clients at the time too, which is very exciting. But then when I told my parents about the news, obviously they were tripping. It was really mad at me. But I kind of like that. I feel like I'm kind of like that rebellious type of person. If I really want something, like I'm gonna go for it. So long story short, kind of like financially too. With the I didn't just start my own business. I had to pay for a course, right? And that took,
Yep.
which I guess we can go into detail with that. So the course, I only had like 3,000 in my bank account plus the stocks that I've invested.
Mhm.
And when I got sold, it was $8,000. So
Okay.
I was like, hey, to the person who was selling me, I was like, hey, I don't have that much money. He's like, okay, it's so cool. Just make some monthly payments. I'm like, okay, that's cool. As long as I can just get in and start learning. So that's what I did. And I was so scared for those 3 months because I had to make money, right? I had to make a lot of money. So, I mean, long story short, I had my work study job at um, at college. I was a weight room monitor, and
Mhm.
then I was also just really grinding on my business, trying to get clients in an ethical way. Sometimes when I talk about business and making money, sometimes I feel like people think like I'm just a scammer or I'm just trying to
Uh-huh.
take advantage of the people. But when I really think about it, I used to think that too. I'm like, wow, that's why I don't really talk about making money and my business and grinding and stuff like that. But then at the end of the day, when I think about all the results and how I change people's lives, like my clients' lives, like it just makes me feel better about myself. Like this business is truly to help people, not just Hmong people. Honestly, that's my niche.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
some
yeah.
people who are
Exactly.
not
Yep.
Hmong, they come to me too sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, for sure.
I'm helping them. So I was like, okay, I shouldn't feel bad at all. Um, but yeah, that's kind of
You
what
know,
happened.
I think like, people who are really passionate about what we do, we're willing to do what we do like without getting paid. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I still have to eat and I still have to pay my bills as well. And I think that is the hardest part about being a personal trainer, especially like someone who cares deeply about, the people that you're helping. And a part of all of that is a part of the journey. A lot of people think that, when they see folks like you or me or like some of the other bodybuilder guys on the page and just keeping up with
Right.
these people, they think like everything is given to us because we work out or that we reach our goals or our physical goals or like that we're training or we're getting muscles and people are thinking like life is going really really well for us and that the way
Mhm.
that we make money is really really easy, but it's definitely not.
Mhm.
We don't get the sponsors and we don't get as many clients as people think because at the end of the day, a lot of the people that we train are like you. A lot of those people
Right.
don't value their health and don't value themselves. And again, it's kind of like a hurt that you have to tell them that, hey, you're gonna have to pay me a little bit in order for me to help you. But a good
Right.
way for me to like um healthily think about it when I first got started was to think that, right now I'm not charging you to for me to help you. Right now, you're paying for my time. My
Mm-hmm.
time is worth $100 because I know that my regular job, if I massage someone, that's how much I'm getting paid.
Right.
So now I kind of put a value on my time. You're not paying me to teach you how to work out. You're paying for 1 hour of my time to change your life. And I
Exactly.
think a lot of people, so when as a trainer yourself, I want you to start valuing yourself because who can do what you can do?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like even me, I cannot do what you can do because the audience that you're trying to reach out to and like your personality and the energy that you bring, that's not something that I can replicate. And no other high level athlete or trainer to that degree kind of has like the energy that you have. And then same for me, you know what I mean? If you're a person that's trying to get stronger, more than likely, I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that, but a lot of people will probably seek me out, right? And that's just
Right.
because that is now the value that people are going to put in the amount of work that I've done.
Mhm.
So I definitely think that the route that you're going is right. And I feel like don't be discouraged. I know that the stage that you're at right now is like really scary and there's a lot of anxiety that comes along with what you're doing.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy enough to change people's lives and you're willing to do it under your own like moral scope and even feel bad about it to a degree, I think you'll be successful in the future, and people just have to see that. And part of this is why. I mean, you're literally putting yourself out there to freaking help people out. And in the
Yeah.
Hmong community, they think we're dumb, right? They'd be like, oh, you're dumb for lifting weights, or this is a dumb job, right? Or they'll make you feel really bad. And it's traumatizing for me. I wake up every now and then scared to death that I'm going to be late for class, that I want to
Mm.
freaking fail, all because I don't want to disappoint my parents.
Right.
And now look at me.
Right.
I'm one of the strongest, power lifters, not even just Hmong, but just generally one of the strongest people in the world.
Yeah.
I'm able to coach people now. A lot of the work that I do, a lot of people wouldn't consider like a smart investment in terms of money, but I'm happy. I make other
Right.
people happy. I save lives. And if you don't value what I do, then eventually one day when you're hurt or when you're I don't want to say deathbed, but like when you're at that point where every little health decision that you make is going to make or break your life, then
Right.
what I do is going to be more valuable than the amount of money you have in your bank account.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I think you are the strongest Hmong powerlifter in the entire world, man. I think you
Well,
are.
I'm only that at the moment. I mean, I know a couple of other guys that are really, really strong too, and if they continue to train, I would be nobody compared to them. But
Mm.
the only reason why I'm the strongest among powerlifters is because no one else wants to venture on that strength journey the way that I do. And
Mm.
that's not to belittle anybody, it takes kind of like a crazy person to step beyond like, okay, I'm 150 pounds and I want to squat 400. That's already a lot.
Right.
How the hell did I push past the barrier to try to work towards 600? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's already like
Yeah.
a few levels beyond what most people think of me. But I like it. And I think what makes me kind of interesting is that a lot of young Hmong kids, they really grow up very similar to you. And I'm actually surprised that you have a similar experience with me, with college and stuff. Because
Mm.
nowadays I feel like the generation is starting to become a little bit more accepting of people's like hobbies versus like me and some of the other people around like the 30s and 40s age, right?
Yeah, probably back then when you were, so you also dropped out of college.
Yep.
Okay.
You and me, we look that's why when you said it was dumb, I didn't think it was dumb because I was in my senior year of college, literally doing the same thing that you're
Jeez.
doing. And then I said,
Yeah.
why the hell am I going to school to learn how to be somebody that I already am? I'm
Mm.
already changing people's lives through exercise. I already know more than the personal trainer because the personal trainer is coming to ask me for tips. Why the hell am
True.
I going to school for this? Right. So
Right.
I literally did the same thing you did. I had like a I would almost say like a huge transition in my life that I found very negative at first that became something positive because I had to take a step back and I dropped out of school. You know, my family situation was really, really rough.
I
But
bet.
I decided that that's where I wanted to go. So I went back to try to fix myself, fix my family. I did like maybe 50 different jobs when I was in Minnesota because it's the
Jeez,
city. I went everywhere. You know, I was an educational
grind.
assistant. I was a freaking mover. You know, I worked, you know, at like regular retail jobs and things like that. And I gained all of this experience. And at the end of the day, I realized that the one thing that I truly loved doing more than anything was just lifting weights and massaging people. And I
Right.
don't know why it took 10 extra years for me to get to that point, you know. So like you're 22 now. Thank
Yeah.
God you figured it out now. Because if you would have waited another 10 years like me, you'd be in the same boat as me. Because you and me, we're in the same position in terms of our career, you know?
It's crazy.
All right, go for
How
it.
old are you, James, by the way?
I'm 30 years old.
30. Okay. Oh, that's right. You're way younger than I thought. Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're really young. So
And so about 8 years older than you. So not much further from your so kind of like what I was saying, right? Like I'm not that far off from the same position that you are, but I'm happy that you reached the pinnacle of your idea at 22 versus 30, you know? I
mm,
mean, even though if imagine if I was in the same position as you right now, imagine instead of going full blown with my goals and the things that I love to do, I spent the next 8 years telling myself that what you're doing right now is wrong and that my parents and everybody that tells me just loves me. So maybe what they're doing is they're looking out for me by telling me that this is what I need to do. So then you venture for 8 years in the wilderness almost to
geez.
figure out what it is that you want to be. And then now you're like, you know what? I should have just became what I wanted to be when I first started, right?
Right. Yeah. And man, I love this topic, man, because a lot of it I can see it's scary. All right. It's really scary to really go after your dreams. And um and what you said about me reaching the pinnacle, like I appreciate that. I don't really know if this is the pinnacle, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
want to like feel like, oh, I made it in life. Like I finally did what I want to do. Now I'm set. Because I want that like what you did when you had 50 jobs, you're the more things you try out, especially as a man, just like going out and trying a lot of things, the more you're gonna find out whether something is gonna be right for you or not.
Yep.
So that's why I think taking risks is so important, especially as a man. Like because I feel like it's our duty to really just put our head down, work on something that we're super passionate about. So um, for me, taking this risk early, yeah, it was so scary at first, right? But then it's at the end of the day, it's so fulfilling. And what I hope most people or a lot of people figure out is if they try to keep listening to other people and just being distracted by these opinions from society, it's going to be hard for that person to be genuinely happy, right?
Mhm.
So this is why, you know, a lot of self motivation, a lot of just being by yourself helps a lot. If you're constantly, especially with Hmong communities where they kind of just grow up with their families, they're always surrounded by people.
Mhm.
I think it's super comfortable to be with your family. Like I love being with my family, like
Yep.
nice food and the atmosphere. But then it's really hard to really find yourself. And then as soon as you have an opinion on what you want to do, and you kind of just like let your family know or you let your friends know, like they're not you, they're gonna most likely they're gonna think it's stupid, and then you're gonna feel
Yep.
so discouraged, and then you're gonna be like, most of the time people are gonna listen to them, right? Because that's how humans, that's how we naturally are. We don't want to be kind of like an outcast, and this goes way deep down to what I believe, like in our DNA, like 4,000 years ago, where it was important to be like the rest of society, or otherwise you're going to be kicked out of the tribe and you had to
Yep.
survive by yourself. Literally, where we had no houses, like you had to like survive out in the wilderness, hunt your own food, right? So it's
Yep.
important to like be to think with society, but nowadays, like we're
Yep.
safe. Like, we have all the necessities. Like if you're by yourself, you can get like a regular job and you can survive, right? So now that case of fitting in with society, it doesn't really matter anymore, which means, okay, now I might as well just do what's going to be really passionate to me. And one thing, like why I'm so passionate about this is because I did this, because I feel like if I never took that move, I don't think I would have grown as a man.
Yep.
And I was just talking to this about my aunties yesterday. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it's like moving out by yourself and kind of just taking risks. It really teaches you how to grow up and to be an adult. Like I know some older people who I still view them as a kid, like immature, like
Yeah.
playing victim's mentality, complaining, like just saying stupid stuff on social media. Like it, it just kind of like just messes with me. That's why I try
Yeah,
to
like it
like. I
irks,
know it
it's
seems like
cringy, right?
yeah, it's cringy. Like I'm not judging them. Like I'm not saying like, hey man, you're like. I guess in a way I am judging them, but in a way to where I want to help them out. Like stop, stop being a victim. Like stop complaining. Just keep working. And yeah, because if you just keep having that mentality where you're always scared, you're always complaining, life is just gonna be so miserable for you. You're never gonna feel fulfilled, and it's scary. You know, like what I think is funny now is like I thought the older people got like in their 30s, like they'd kind of be more situated and more mature. But there's some 40-year-olds that I know that I see on social media. I'm like, oh my God, like it's just as if you're 18, just graduating out of high school. It's like same thing. So it's like, I don't know. I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of goes back to what I mean when I say like, you reach the pinnacle, what I mean by the pinnacle is obviously we're never ever going to reach the goals that we have set because at the end of the day, once we reach it, we're going to reach for new goals. And I feel like
Right.
it's a endless, repetitive process once you understand that. But what I mean as a pinnacle is kind of like what you're saying. When you learn what it is that you are, and as a man, and you know that this is the limitations of what you can do, what's stopping you from being you? And if you could
Hmm.
do that at the age of 22, and I didn't really do that until recent, because again, I think a lot of people, when they meet me and we talk, obviously I can have those conversations with people where I tell people about like my life and how difficult it was to be this and this and this. But genuinely, I try my best not to be disrespectful to my parents and to the people
Right.
that has been there for me, at least for a majority of my life. But regardless, it still negatively impacted me a lot. And as strong as a lot of people think I am, it took me a long time to just accept that what I'm doing right now is okay. Part of the reason why I do a lot of these Hmong fitness events is to tell myself and to the community that what I'm doing is not wrong. And that I think people's health, we need to take it into consideration a little bit more, regardless if it's just lifting weights or mental or self defense, or even just like you, learning what it is to be a personal trainer or someone that dabs into your health and fitness.
Mm.
And when you get to that level, I kind of call it the pinnacle, because now like your brain is like washed of its old self, and
Mm.
you can just grow beyond. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? The pinnacle
Yeah.
is literally you being reborn and realizing that you can be better. And I feel like a lot of people like you who are stuck at that young mentality, who can't make these hard decisions, because I know a lot of 40-year-olds too who aren't willing to make the same move that you did, where you're willing to move out and go full blown with your careers.
Mm.
I know a lot of older people right now who wish they could have done the things that they wanted to do, but because they spent 20 or 30 years doing some dumb job to be stable, now they regret it for their entire life, and they really wish they could have done
Jeez.
this and this and this. And a lot of OGs always say this to me. Like they always say stuff like if they were young, they would be so much better than me at what I do. And I always think back, see, so you reach the pinnacle of a man when you're 50, when you realize that that's what you should have done. I reached that around my 30s or close to my 30s. And I feel like if we can get more people like you, because your generation, even now, so how many guys do you think at your age or like around the 18 to 25 is bold enough to say, I'm going to move out, I'm going to do my own thing, fail or succeed, I'm going to just go ahead and do it. I'm really scared of the decisions that I'm going to make, but I'm just going to go ahead and see it through. How many people do you know can do that right now at the age of 22?
Not a lot, and
Not a
not a
lot,
lot.
right?
Are you
So
speaking within like the Hmong community or just kind of in
just in
general?
general,
Oh
dude.
yeah.
The other day I was at T-Mobile and this kid was 26 years old and he was asking his dad if he can have the new iPhone. 20
Mm,
freaking 6?
mm.
Come on, right? You're asking your dad if he can buy you an iPhone. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, dude, what's going on? Like, this
Yeah,
dude is
right,
only 4 years younger than me. Like, how is he still asking his dad if his dad could buy him an iPhone or not, you know?
right. Man,
And I know a lot of Hmong people too. Like right now, I have a lot of Hmong friends who are around your age, a little bit older than you, some a lot older than you, and then some a little bit younger than you, and a lot of them, I feel like they are at the point where they're going to make the transition into
right,
being who they are. But
right.
because they're so afraid of that, they're afraid of backlash, they're afraid of the outcomes that they haven't taken that first step. And you and me both know just because you want to work out, it's not the same as freaking lifting a weight. You know what I mean? Two different things, right? And I don't want people to be stuck in that stage. So imagine if you're at that transition and you don't really know who you are, you don't really know if health or something like that is important to you.
Mm,
I host a freaking event and I'm going to show you who you really are. I want you to come and participate. I want you to know how scary it is to put yourself out in front of people and lift and have everybody judge you. And then when all said and done, all we do is say, you did great. I
right.
can't wait to see you lift again. How did that change your perception of exercise? How did that change your perception of what you originally thought was bad or negative about yourself? And how do you view that now? And I just want to give people that knowledge that I've gained. So kind of like the knowledge that makes you who you are now, how can we just give that to everybody else? Because you and me both know that health and fitness is not just about going to the gym. It's not,
Exactly.
oh, I have to go to the gym now. You're like, if I don't go to the gym, I feel sluggish. I feel like crap. I want
Exactly.
to be in the best shape possible. And that doesn't change your job. That doesn't change who you are as a person. So
Mm,
why do other people let that part change who they are?
mm. Yeah, man, a lot of great things that you said there.
Mhm.
Like just a quick comment about the competition, Hmong fitness competition back in
Yeah,
July.
yeah, yeah.
I was
Let's get
like,
in it.
I watched Mark's video on seeing what kind of things we're gonna be doing. I'm like, yo, I don't like I've never trained for that. I don't even do that. Because what I do is I consider myself an aesthetic bodybuilder. So
Yep.
bodybuilding to look really good, right? So I didn't really care about strength too much, kind of just focusing on high quality form, moderate to heavy weights, really good form, just pushing yourself. And I was like, man, I'm probably gonna do the worst. And looking at the scores, I actually did do one of the worst. but then to me, I was like, I don't care. I don't care about what I do. What I was thinking about was two things. Number one, supporting the event
Yep.
because as a Hmong person,
Appreciate
right?
that.
Like I feel like I'm just starting to try to figure out what my purpose is going to be in life. Like for one, I know it has to be fitness related, but in terms of fitness, like whatever it is, fitness branching out to whatever things, I don't know what it is, but I know it's fitness. So I was like, okay, let me help support. And number two is just getting outside of my comfort zone, right? Because I like the idea of getting outside of my comfort zone because I know I'm going to grow. And so, especially with the deadlifting, I've never deadlifted before. So when there's like 30, 50, like 30 to 50 people there watching me,
You got
um,
nervous, huh?
I got nervous. Like,
And you
wow,
were
man.
thinking they're gonna judge you, right?
Exactly.
Like, how are they
It's
gonna think? Are they gonna think my form is bad? Am I strong? Like, oh my god, this guy's lifting 400 pounds. Does that mean I'm weak?
exactly. I
All
was
of
like,
these, right? Anxiety, huh?
exactly. I was seeing these guys warm up with 405, like 4 plates. I'm like, yo, like I knew for sure I was defeated, but that's not the point. It's just trying your best. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it felt really good. And then Just another point to talk about. Oh, let's see, I forgot what else you said, but basically, just oh yeah, about the 26-year-old asking for his dad to pay for their phone.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I've learned is, I don't know if you know. Do you know Gary Vaynerchuk? Gary V, entrepreneur.
No, no, I don't.
Okay. Well, basically, he said he's a very successful businessman, but he said if you have people paying for your stuff, they have control. They have a lot of power and control in your life. So one of the best ways to just completely be independent is to pay for stuff, right? Because if you're paying
Right.
for everything, you can't have your parents say like, "Hey, you should change your house like this, or you should get a different car." But if you're paying for all your own stuff, like you don't have to listen to anyone.
Yep.
So, and then
Mental growth.
exactly, and if people are like, "Oh, I don't have enough money," it's just like, just make more money, just get a job, things like
Yeah,
that.
right.
So,
Yeah,
it,
I mean, that's why I work so many jobs, right? I still, when I first started coaching, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I
right,
also worked three other jobs along with that until I
mm,
can coach and just slowly get rid of the other jobs. But
right,
but I was determined to make this my lifestyle. For
mm,
other people, obviously, you might not be able to do that with health and fitness, but what is it? What is your niche? What if you're a computer guy? Okay, invest all your freaking money into computers and be dumb about it. But when you learn how to do it with your computer and you make hundreds of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars off of computers, who can tell you that you're dumb, right? Because
right,
now you're paying everything, you're doing everything. Initially, it's dumb until you're smart. I think with
mm,
a lot of people. I want to continue a little bit of what you said about the Hmong Fitness event.
mm.
Um, Now I don't want to butcher her name, but she was that Hmong lady that had the Chinese name before she changed it back to
Yeah,
right. So you know who I'm talking about? I think
yeah,
it's
I know.
Paul, right? Paul.
Uh-huh. Mm,
She was messaging me, I think a week or two before the event, and she was like ultra hesitant because she was saying, I don't power lift. I don't do strongman stuff. I don't really know if this is what I want to do, right? I don't know if I want to come out and compete or whatever. I might look dumb. I haven't been training. And I'm just like, well, I think you're looking at it from the totally wrong way.
yeah,
If you're coming into this competition expecting to win and you won't participate if you don't win, you already lost because you're expecting something out of this event, right?
mm,
And I said that in my heart's a heart, I think as long as you show up and participate and learn something, you don't lose. And that's the whole purpose of this event. We throw money and we throw like some supplements here and there just to kind of give you like incentive for like an actual winner, right?
mm,
But at the end of the day, like most people who showed up to support could care less if they got the money or the supplements. That's just like
right,
an added bonus. And I can tell you that everybody that showed up at the event who was physically there and participated or just watched, you can tell like the energy is different. You could tell that we're not trying to steal from anybody. You could tell
exactly,
that all we're really trying to do is help people learn better, get stronger, and whatever. And just like you said, get uncomfortable with all the stuff that you're not good at. I'm an
right,
expert on lifting heavy. But if I did the strongman with Mark, he would destroy me. You know what I mean? Or like
mm,
against you, you guys would all destroy me because the moment we start running with chains, I've lost, right? Because I'm a lifter. I can lift the chains, but I don't want to run with the chains,
right,
you know?
yeah,
Um, and I find that dynamic really cool, which is why I'm trying to spread that ideology a lot, especially with our community. And I find, people with personalities like you, especially young, and you're able to kind of push and even relate, with the older generation and try to help. For me, I just think that's really cool. And I really wanted to dig into your mind a little bit so people can get to know you too, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be seeing you and a bunch of these other fitness people a lot more often during these Hmong fitness events because we all think very similar. Um, and that leads into my next question. If we got a little bit of time, everybody starts off as a wannabe bodybuilder, and then we slowly transition into personal training, and then eventually we decide to actually compete. My question to you is, now that you've competed a little bit at the Hmong fitness events, you're slowly building your business and you're learning more about being a fitness trainer. is bodybuilding or a powerlifting meet or just any competition athletic wise, is that on the agenda for you sometime soon or sometime in the future?
Definitely not sometime soon.
Hmm.
In the past, I have said that I never want to compete because it's like kind of like the lifestyle to compete and to get into like single digit body fat, and how that's going to affect me and possibly my business too of coaching.
Hmm.
I feel like it wouldn't be beneficial, but it does sound like a fun thing to try out at least once in my life.
Yeah,
So
right.
maybe in the future, just kind of like just to kind of just knock it out for like a bucket list or something like that, because I do like being lean. So when I think about that, it's like, okay, it sounds kind of fun. Um, but when it comes down to, and this takes a lot of self awareness, like just asking yourself, well, like, what do I want to do in life? And that kind of confuses me a lot. So I don't know, because I would say from the surface that I know it takes a crazy ton of discipline and like a lot of discipline and just a lot of sacrifice when you're trying to win at a bodybuilding competition, right? The guys such as Kong Moore, Hutchison Yang, man,
Yep.
crazy, like crazy conditions. Like if I was like, sometimes I think of myself like, man, if I was Kong, I would post a lot more.
Yeah.
Post like every single day. But like everyone, like I said, but then I think to myself, it's like, okay, maybe he doesn't really have any intentions like me, right? And that's the thing. Like everyone has different intentions and kind of like areas that they want to discover in their life. So definitely not sometime soon, but in the future, possibly I might.
Okay. Yeah, because I kind of like what you were saying about growth and being uncomfortable. I think if you compete just once, I don't think you need to compete a lot because I tell a lot of my friends
Mhm.
too, that once you start lifting with me, don't feel forced to compete, but I would like you to try it at least once and tell me what you think. And I think,
Mhm.
folks like James Lee and Xiao Yang and some of these guys that I've trained who got like one or two meets under their belts, I think they've learned a lot. It's like a community
Mhm.
thing. They learn that lifting can be not judgmental like what they're used to maybe at a commercial gym.
Right.
And the environment is just really positive. And I think when you overcome that feeling, it's kind of like you learn a lot about yourself, like what you're capable of. Who
Mhm.
knew that you could deadlift 400 pounds? Who
Right.
knew that you can get your body fat at 2 or 3% and being ultra disciplined, because only you know what that suffering feels like. And when you accomplish it, you feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. And then, yeah, for sure. So I think there's two things when it comes to just achieving a certain goal that you have in mind. Number one is you have to definitely take risks and be uncomfortable. But then the second thing is like I feel like you have to know what you want. And I think this can be really difficult for some people. This is difficult for me. Like, for example, I'm going through right now. Next week, there's a rave going on, and I'm thinking about it. Like, it sounds fun, right? Definitely to hang out with my friends. But then what I'm thinking about is, man, probably gonna drink a little bit, and then we're gonna crash at a hotel, and then just my sleep schedule is gonna be so messed up. How I wake up, I'm literally thinking about like that already, to
Yep.
where it's like not making me want to go, and it's like such as FOMO, like fear of missing out. Um, I think about it like I don't think about it just like having fun and having drinking with my friends. I'm thinking about it now towards like, man, because right now I feel like I'm at a pretty good momentum when it comes to my training and my nutrition and things like that. Um, and the last thing I'd want to do is to ruin that momentum within the 6 days coming up, and then have a Halloween party coming up too. And I don't even know if I want to go there anymore, right? It sounds kind of depressing, but then when I think about my goals, right, like being in top condition shape, it's not just for myself, but I actually have ideas of I want to be sponsored by health companies, health
Yep.
supplements, things like
Yep.
that. And I know you have to have a
You are
great
your
mind.
business. Yep. You are your business.
Exactly. So when I think about things like this, it's like it's a struggle, right? It's like, oh, just go on and have fun, right? But for me, it's like, oh, I got to think about like the consequences. So it's like you have to know what you want and then just go for it. Otherwise, if you never really take a risk or you never make hard decisions towards a goal, like a long-term goal, I think most people are just gonna be filled with regret. And then kind of just me playing it out. If I do go to the rave and go to the Halloween party, I feel like I would always feel like how I am right now. Like a couple weeks ago, I was like, man,
Yep.
like just not like going all in. Like I like to go all in. So I don't know. It's just you have to be uncomfortable, but the number two, you gotta know what you want, and then just go for it. Just take risks at that.
Yeah. When I mean, I have a lot of my some guys on the Hmong Fitness page too. They know this. Like sometimes we used to like get wasted or get super drunk like 3-4 weeks out before I go compete, you know? And I know that's probably not like the best idea, but that's what it means to be Hmong, you know. I
Yeah.
like to drink and hang out with a lot of people as well. But like you, I noticed that the better and the higher level I get, the more I cannot get away with these things.
Right.
So I think when I compete very, very serious, like there's a full intention of me to compete, I tend to shut
Right.
off a lot of those things more. But if you're not in anything in particular in terms of goals, like what I tell a lot of people, like, dude, we don't have to drink until we throw up for us to hang out. You know, like if you want me to show up at your drinking party just to hang out with you, can I just go grab food with you the next day? Because I know you're gonna throw up all night tonight, right? It's the same thing, you know. And I just remind people like we can still hang out, but we just don't have to hang out in a way that hurts me. If the important thing is just you and me being together.
Right. Not for the
Um,
intention of just getting blacked out drunk.
Yeah. And I tell a lot of my friends too, like, yeah, sometimes I'll go to like EDM or some of these crazy musical festivals with you guys, but just don't force me to do what you guys do. I might take a couple of drinks here and there. You know, I might take a couple of puffs here and there, but you know, the pills and stuff like that, you guys do that on your own. But I will enjoy my time with you guys. I will babysit you guys because now my time is with you guys, you know, and I'm not, does that make sense? And I think you
Yeah.
just have you yourself, you just have to like find that perfect medium between like you and your friends, because I don't want you to lose your friends in search of, you know, your career. But at the same
Yeah.
time, if your career is what's important to you, then your friends should also understand, because a blessing doesn't take away from another blessing. If you're my
Yeah.
true friend, see that this is important for me and help me out. Maybe don't drink with me when I can't be drinking, or maybe just allow me to, I don't know, hang out with you in a different environment, you know, that makes me feel comfortable, and don't make me feel like I'm forced to do things with you or other people. But, you know, just kind of just give you that part of my mind, because I know I've struggled with that a lot too. But I'm not trying to make my body a business. You know,
Right.
originally I used to just lift really, really heavy to let go a lot of my anger. So getting drunk a couple of weeks before that kind of helped out
Right.
with that, you know?
Mhm.
All right. So I pretty much asked everything that I wanted to ask you. You know, I find your journey really interesting, and I really want to keep up with some of the things that you're doing, because, you know, I think a lot of people think like I only keep up with like other athletes, but that's definitely not true. I think health is much deeper, and I think people who are fitness trainers or just like a high school coach, because one of my best friends is a freaking coach, right, at a school.
Mhm.
And I think what they do is also very healthy, you know, growing the next generation, teaching them stretches and basic things like that. And you guys go unappreciated because, again, people only look at top level bodybuilders or top level powerlifters as good trainers. But are we really good
Right.
trainers? You know, the best trainer is going to be the one that you can listen to, the one that you can trust, you know, the one that you could build a relationship with.
Mhm.
So I really wanted, you know, people to know that about you, because I found you really interesting when you came to our event, and then you stayed, you talked, you helped us out a little bit. But what do you want to ask me? I'm going to open up the floor. You can ask me anything. And then at the same time, you could talk about anything that you want, because a lot of it was me asking you and you answering. So now you can give comments, ask me questions, or just talk about whatever, and unless you got it like my opinions that you want, feel free to go.
Yeah, man, that's a lot. I guess at this point in my life, to where I feel like I'm overthinking a lot of things. Like when I think about like who's like a young guy who overthinks going out would like have like a detriment on their career, right? So like I'm not
Yep.
saying that I'm like woke and I'm like better than everyone else, but it's like with what I'm thinking about, I feel like not a lot of people think about. But then, um, so with you being 30 years old, if you could give me your best advice for life when it comes to just being fulfilled, right, with what you know as a 30-year-old to me,
Mm-hmm.
22-year-old,
Yep.
what would that be?
So if I had to give you like my best advice, I think a lot of it is accepting who you are as a person.
Mm,
When you lift weights, what are you really doing? You're torturing yourself until you accept who you are because you're going to get better. What do you do when you diet? You're quote unquote torturing yourself to make yourself a little bit better. And all of that at the end of the journey is about you accepting or being happy with where you are at in your life. And I find it that if you work out, these are going to be lessons that you learn along the way as well. If you can accept yourself and where you are going in your journey, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. Fail as often as you can, because the more you fail now, the more successful you're going to be in the future. Don't be afraid to try and be weird, like what you're saying. Maybe your goals are just different from other people, like me, like what I was telling you. I'm only 30 years old and I've been doing these health and fitness events for what, 8 years? So you can imagine I was doing those events when I was your age and I was
yeah,
the guy hosting these events, and I'm still doing it now. I think that's kind of weird because what kind of 22-year-old rather spend their time into the community trying to save all these people who's got diabetes, versus like going out partying, because who doesn't want to have a beer with the strongest man in the world, right? So, I have a lot of those problems myself, but I think when I learned to accept who I am as a person, that, what, this is what I like to do. And I don't care if you think it's weird or not. This is what I like to do. I don't think if you care if I make a lot of money in my life or if you accept that about me or not, when you become that with yourself, there's nothing that you cannot accomplish in life. So when you think back to your fears, when you think back to your decisions, when you think back to the relationships that you have with your friends and your family, if you accept yourself and you're content with yourself, then you become a blessing to everybody else's life, even if your happiness is not involved with theirs. Because I think, you're very much other people minded. Sometimes you want to have fun with everybody, but at the same time, that it's going to affect you. So if you can accept that part about yourself, it will be easier for you to hang out with these people. So a lot of it is it comes back to you accepting yourself. If you can accept yourself, what you're trying to do, and not be afraid to fail and try new things, I think the people that you're going to attract in your life, the success that you're going to have is going to naturally come to you. So don't chase after the dream body that you want. Just work and the dream body or your success will chase after you. And
mhm,
to me,
yeah,
that's the best advice I can give you at this point.
yeah, no, appreciate that, man. Yeah,
Uh,
just so basically, what I got from that was just accepting who you are. I mean, yeah, sometimes like what I got from that was like sometimes who you are and what you really want to do is probably going to offend some people. You're
yep.
probably going to get like a lot of, especially friends who like might not understand your vision. But I think the I feel like the more crazy you are and the more ambitious you are with your goals, I
Yep.
think a lot more people are going to think you're crazy, except for like the very few people who can actually relate to you,
Yep.
and they can see it too. Um, and I feel like most likely these would be like mentors and people who've already succeeded in something that you want to exceed to or succeed in too. I think
Yep.
they can see that in you. So yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Because like in the next 8 years, when I'm 30, that 30-year old milestone of age, it's like, what are I ask myself sometimes, like, what are some things I actually want to do? Sometimes I make myself some money goals, like I want to make like over $100,000 or make $10,000 per month. Um, but then I think about that, it's like, is that really going to make me fulfilled? And
Yep.
so, like, I question myself a lot of times, and I don't know, it can be kind of confusing sometimes. But all I know is that I keep working hard towards whatever I think is right at the time, at whatever phase I'm in, and then just making sacrifices. So
Okay. That's fine.
yeah,
Yep. Sorry about that.
yeah, no worries.
Yep. I think you're at a good spot. Don't be don't be afraid to make mistakes, because I know you've already, again, kind of talked about some of the stuff that, from the very beginning,
Yeah,
you're doing all these businesses, you're trying to figure out if these are the right moves, and you build a lot of anxiety, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I think as long as you understand that the more you continue to fail and the more you continue to try things, you will learn about what makes you happy. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of people, again, will tell me that I'm dumb for doing what I'm doing, but it makes me happy.
that's
It
good.
makes me happy knowing that you can learn to be this kind of a person at your age versus me who is at my age. And if we can make it even younger or get people to accept us more, how many more younger Hmong kids nowadays maybe might not decide to, you know, suicide, or
Mm,
people might not think to become like alcoholics or drug addicts, or
right.
things like that. And I think if they can learn a little bit from you and some of the decisions that you made in your life, even if it's not fun, it's fulfilling. It makes you
Right.
healthy, it makes you happy. And I think a lot of people, because they're trying to make other people happy in their life, it
Mm,
causes a lot of that stress, and it makes people question who they are. It makes them question like every decision and if it's a right decision or wrong decision. So I definitely think that the path that you're on, as long as you can remember these things and continue to ask yourself these things, you can
mm,
never go wrong. And not a
okay.
lot of people ask themselves, like, is what I'm doing correct? Am I happy? Is this really the path that I should continue? And I personally know that this is the path that I'm doing, is because think about it, I've been doing this for 8 years and I continue to meet people like you. And I
Mm,
continue to meet more and more people who are getting older, who are like, you know, I used to not think about my health that much until I became a pre-diabetic and my
right.
doctors tell me I'm going to die soon. And then now, I decided that I'm going to start lifting weights, and then boom, they come to our events. And
Right.
maybe when I first started, I used to think what I was doing was dumb because I didn't get anything out of it. But
Mm,
now, just look at where we are now.
exactly.
And I think that's the goal. I'm ultra happy now, even if I'm not making a lot of money. So if you can say the same thing as me, then you're already at my level and beyond. And I'm still learning myself. I'm trying to learn from you. I'm trying to learn from all the people that I interview as well, because
Mm,
this is all a learning process, you
mm,
know.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of my sayings is, if you got haters, then you're doing something right. So
that's it, man. But all right, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, my wife, she I guess she has to go to work. So she was just reminding me that, the babies are gonna be there. So I appreciate your
sounds good.
time. Love the conversations. I want to continue to have these conversations, maybe in the future as well, to see where
Mm,
you are at in your journey, see some of the life decisions that you've made, what you learned from it. If you felt like you become more of a man. But until then, this is Johnny. He helps Hmong OGs and Hmong women lose 10 pounds without losing rice. If you want to know where he's at, he's in Minnesota. He's a personal trainer, really good guy. He's got my stamp, and I hope to see him and more of you all at, the future events that we got coming. Anything you want to say, Johnny?
I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity to be in this podcast with you on this Zoom session. A lot of good things too. I'm learning a lot too. And I look forward to these future Hmong competition events. Those are really fun, really exciting, and looking forward to more talks with you, James. So just want to say appreciate this a lot.
Yes, sir, man. All right. Thank you, man. I'll catch you next time, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Okay.